for me, my work had to have a purpose to it. It had to have something that gave back in some way. That was a really important motivator for me. But I think everybody kind of needs to go through and see what their motivators are, and their motivators change over time. So you should constantly be kind of reevaluating that and saying, with the skills that I have, what is it that I can do? How can I contribute right now?
I know there are a lot of things that you're doing, but I'd like to hear it myself and have the audience hear it.
So I'm doing multiple things right now.
Right.
I'm working with nonprofits. I'm working with startups. I'm working for a specific startup as their chief impact officer. I'm helping at Women Who Code, in a voluntary role there. So yeah, a lot of different things. And computers afforded me that ability because I've been doing that for so long that I was able to say, look up at some point and say, okay, well, now what do I want to do? And realize I wanted to do multiple things, and I wanted to do things that had an impact and that I could give back. And technology, actually, a lot of people don't realize it, but technology is a great way to be able to give back. I've created websites to help people find educational materials, as a volunteer thing, but I've helped over 20,000 people through creating a website that maybe took me a week. It's one of those things that you can make a huge amount of difference in a very small space. So that's what I love about technology. Is technology in and of itself is not good and it's not evil. It can be used for either. And I think a lot of people see the downsides to technology. They see the problems that it's caused. But if done the right way, I really feel like it can be really a force for good. And it's a tool like anything else. So how are you going to use that tool? If you want to use that tool for good, you can. And there are so many people out there right now trying to do that. And that's what I do in terms of advising startups. I work with a lot of for-profit, for good companies. They're ones that want to have, business as a force for good. I went to college for math, computer science.
Wow. Did you find that career or did that career find you?
It definitely found me. I was actually in high school, and I was bored in high school a lot. And I had this crazy math class. It was called integrated math, and it had all different types of math. And one of the things that we did at one point was computers, which at the time, I mean, I'm dating myself, but this was like in the 70s, 70s, early 80s. At the time, it wasn't, computers were kind of a new thing, and they basically took up a room, and there was no such thing as a personal computer. And my school was very outdated to start with. So we actually used cards, physical cards that we would like feed into the computer. But I kind of fell in love with the whole idea of creating these computer programs. It was really, really exciting and interesting. And it was like a puzzle you had to put together. And so from that little 6-week bit of, I think that was like maybe my junior year in high school, the following year I took a computer science class and decided I wanted to major in it because it was one of those things that didn't bore me. It was interesting. It changed all the time. And so when I went to school, that's specifically what I was looking to do was that, computer science bit, not the math part. I always did well in math, but it didn't really interest me. But the computer science, the actual puzzle, puzzle piece of it, that's what I really liked. The logic and the, hands-on stuff.
I think sometimes people don't believe us that we say we love what we're doing. We have so much fun doing what we're doing for a living. And trying to get those concepts across to someone who maybe is feeling the pressure of going to a university or taking classes, whatever that path is. But I think it's important that we reinforce that you can find what you love to do and do it. And it's not that hard a goal. And it's something fun that I think we can share within when we give back, to remind them that working is really fun sometimes. And
Yeah,
if you do
yeah,
it right now,
it absolutely can be. There's no question about that. And volunteering in a role like a mentor or in some of the advisor roles I have, those are really fulfilling and always gives you the lens of somebody else, right? If you do it right, if you approach those things with empathy and, you know, imagining yourself in their shoes, I think it makes such a difference when you can kind of look at it from their point of view and not approach it like me trying to make that decision. I think that's one of the things in mentoring. One of those things I learned early on is I know how I would have, what direction I would have chosen based on the options they gave. But I think in trying to mentor somebody, the best thing is to get to know them. Being a mentor gives you so much back. I think people don't realize that. Like they think of, okay, I'm going to be a mentor, so I'm going to give, right? And you do, and you do give as a mentor. And I would hope so. I mean, that's kind of your goal. But you get as much back as you give. And I have learned so much from the people that I mentor, and it's been great mentoring people that are all different ages. So I'll mentor people, that are right out of school. I've mentored sixth and seventh graders. I've mentored, so I've kind of mentored a lot of different groups of people, and I always learn from those groups, whoever they are, and get energy from them and excitement, and realize how much people can do with that, with the energy that they have, even if they don't have the technical skills. That's something that can always come. But if they've got the energy and they want to make a difference, they can learn almost anything. That's my feeling. Mostly, I am advising startups, working with them on their technology, on their platforms. I was a product person for a long time, which means that I help envision what a product can be, and try to help people with limited resources, try to figure out how to get the most out of the technology that they can. A lot of it has to also do with just strategy in general, business strategy. Since I worked for small companies and startups kind of my whole life, I understand a lot of different aspects of the business. I was a bookkeeper when I was in high school and college. So I know the financial side, I know the technical side. I've done some HR, had to do with a lot of, policies in the startup I worked with. So I can kind of help them navigate, the beginning of a company. When a company is starting, there's a lot of things you need to learn, a lot of things you need to kind of, wrap your head around. So that's what I'm basically doing for a number of companies. And then I do a ton of volunteer work on the side. I don't know if it's on the side, it's kind of almost forefront, but mentoring is one thing I do, help a lot of hackathons, mentoring and judging at hackathons, which is a lot of fun. I love doing that. There are science fairs and STEM weeks and things like that that I'm a part of. I help with Women Who Code, I help with their leadership and life skills. And, just thinking about those things just outside of technology that you need to know in order to be successful in your job. So those are just a few things. I work with some nonprofits as well, helping them. So yes, it's a couple things that I'm working on. There's community out there to help you. There are a lot of networks. There are a lot of events that happen that you can go to, a lot of which are free or have free resources. There are mentoring resources. So all of those things I think are really valuable and important to know about. Especially if you're going through a job transition or you're becoming a parent, or something has changed dramatically that you need support on. There is support out there, especially in the tech community, especially in the tech community where you might be, not the typical person that's in that community. So there are definitely resources out there, the people that want to help and can help you navigate through that transition, whatever that might be. You don't have to plan for the next 20 years, particularly in tech. You have no idea what's going to happen in 20 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. In the last year, tech has changed dramatically because of what happened with the pandemic. So it's important to have, goalposts and things that you want to shoot towards, but be flexible and understand that there are so many things that you can do that are tech that is not necessarily being part of the big five tech companies. Like there are so many different options out there that people might not realize are available to them. I did a lot of hiring, and I personally cared a lot more about what a person did in hands-on experience and their aptitude than I cared about specific languages that they learned or specific degrees that they had. To me, the you can learn almost any. I've had to learn so many programming languages over my life because they keep changing. And I realized you just keep taking those skills and you just apply them to the next language. And yes, there's always interesting changes and differences in syntax. It just honestly keeps getting easier in some ways to program as opposed to some of the programming languages I learned originally. So I don't personally care about the degrees and the certificates and things like that. I care about what skills you bring to the table that allow you to be a lifelong learner, because I know next year we're going to be changing our technology platform again. So I need people that can grow with it, not people who necessarily have specific skills. Now that's not true with every hiring manager, but when I was hiring, that's definitely what I was looking for.
Young candidates need to learn and understand is be able to sell themselves a little bit stronger to say, I have this, but I've done this, and I might not have this certification, but I'd love for you to talk with people that I've worked with and give you a little bit more confidence into my abilities. It's hard. It is really hard to get past that um, requirements document of um, this person doesn't have this, and that goes right in the bin. And
Well, that's something that interesting to note, though, is that one of the things that's been shown over and over again is that women won't apply to a job unless they have 100% of the qualifications,
oh, wow.
whereas men will apply when they have 60%. So, one of the things that a lot of the organizations I belong to, we encourage people to apply for those jobs. I know that we put, as a company, we put requirements out there that we knew we weren't going to get someone who had everything. But it's like, here's our list, our wish list, but apply if you think you can do the job and you have most of what's there, or at least, feel like it's a job that you can handle. So that's something to be aware of too. Some of it doesn't make it past the automated, resume trackers, unfortunately. And so that's something to think about, is what companies aren't using them, which ones are looking at things. Look at those smaller companies, look at those startups, look in places that aren't necessarily tech companies that are looking for tech help. Like, there are a lot of places that need tech help that are not tech companies, and so they'll look in a different way, they'll look for a different type of person. So I would definitely encourage people to do that. And Women Who Code had a great talk about crafting your engineering story. What is your story, and how do you kind of put that in your resume and in your LinkedIn and all those different things? And I think that's something people need to think about. It is the story that you're telling. So your resume tells a story, your interview tells a story. What is it that you're trying to get across? And those skills that are really valuable are those, curiosity and ability to learn things quickly. And so if that is a skill of yours, then that should be something that's in your story. I would go in feeling very confident, like having that kind of what you call an elevator pitch. Somebody says, what is it that you do? And usually I didn't say this with you, but usually I would say, well, what I care about is this. The things that are important to me are this, because it's not about what I do for a living, or it's about who I am. And that's my story. My story is that, I have a personal mission, and that's to shine a light on organizations and people that are doing good in the world. That's really my guiding light right now, and that's what I use for everything. So when I go to these networking things, I give my elevator pitch, and that's my elevator pitch.